franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank, because I have to be. We have an incredible show for you today. In studio, we have Victoria, who is the proprietor of attitudes.cc, and who, in talking with her just before the show began, actually has an incredibly full and diverse existence, and we're going to hopefully touch on as many of those topics as possible. All right, let's go right now to our interview. Victoria, welcome to Frank Talks.
Thank you very much.
Let's start off, before we get to talking about your website, www.attitudes.cc. I'd like to know a little bit about you in terms of your personal background. Tell me about growing up and when you first discovered that you were a little bit different.
Growing up in a Greek, very highly disciplined family, very protective of their family members, particularly the girls, as they're preened and trained to become caregivers and then to move on to the next level, which is just get married, have children, and continue the caregiving tradition, which leaves out a lot of self-discovery, encouragement, and support for the individual.
This sounds a lot like the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Was your environment similar to what the main character of that movie experienced?
The environment is very close, actually, to My Big Fat Greek Wedding. She did not hold back anything. It's very much close-knit. Everybody knows everybody else's business, and they basically direct your life.
Now, how did you get away from that?
It was a turning point in my life when I got away from that, because I was married at the young age of 18, and that particular marriage was arranged.
Arranged marriages, that doesn't, it seems that, that's such a foreign concept nowadays, but you still went through the process of an arranged marriage.
The process began because this was the first person I ever slept with. So my parents basically told me, this is the bed you made, this is the bed you're going to lie in. No questions about the individual, finding out if this is a good match, if this is good for me, if I'm comfortable, what did I experience, how I felt about it. All they cared about is reputation and shame.
So they forced you to get married, and was it in that relationship that you discovered a different lifestyle?
In that particular relationship, I discovered that the submissive role was not for me, particularly when I had no say in whatever was going on. I was basically told this is my role, and I had to abide by it, and I can't derail from it at all, which made me feel like an individual playing a role, an actor in a play of some sort.
It sounds like it was a very stifling time for you, that you weren't really discovering who you were.
Most definitely a stifling time. It was a path that I was put on by somebody else without finding out who I really was, or who I was as an individual. It was very frustrating at times.
Now, you mentioned you were married, so you're not married now.
Okay.
I'd like to know, what was the procedure of getting out of that unhealthy relationship, and is that when you experimented with different lifestyles?
The turning point in that particular unhealthy relationship was physical abuse, particularly a rape by the husband, at which point I decided this is total bullshit, so to speak. And I have basically been put in a place where I don't want to be, so I had to get out. Going back home was very difficult. My parents were ashamed of the fact that I came home, didn't want to tell anybody. So I basically was the daughter coming home, working nearby, keeping appearances, still the family member, but not an individual, a protected family member.
Now, let's move a little bit further ahead here. At what point did you truly start to discover who you were?
I started to discover who I was when I had a time frame where I actually got my own apartment with a roommate. And I started finding out that being in a relationship with a male partner was much more than just one says, what you're going to do and the other one complies. It was more consensual. Able to discover and journey into different areas of sexuality, And I was always fascinated by particularly the BDSM fetish area because of the negotiation and the open communication and the fashion. There's so much about it that basically enticed.
What would you say are some of your favorite elements of that lifestyle?
My favorite element of this particular lifestyle is that the open communication and negotiation is a high priority, making it consensual, loving, and a high level of trust between two people or three, whichever the case may be.
Now, would you say in your own experience that the level of communication in the types of relationships you have now surpass, or and maybe they don't surpass, the type of communications that exist in what would be considered more traditional relationships?
I find that in the more traditional relationships that I had in the past, communication was not apparent. Sitting down, talking about one's feelings, what one was going through, expectations, desires, thoughts, that was never touched on. Now, everything is touched on. It's laid out on the table and easier to access. If something is not comfortable with the other person, then we break it down, talk about it, take it from a different angle, or back off for the time being and maybe try something else.
You know, it sounds like you've had so many obstacles to overcome, and you've made a lot of sacrifices along the way to get to where you are right now. What would you advise somebody who maybe is in a situation similar to what you were going through and they want to get out? What could you tell them?
The only advice I can give you at this point in time, it would be to seek out a support group of some sort, somebody who has been in that position or is and can assist. At the time, I didn't have anybody, and one of the reasons why I've created my website currently is to help people who are in different situations that there is no support or encouragement around that could be easily accessed.
Now, we've covered a lot about your past here. Let's talk a little bit about the future. What is it that you aspire to in the future for yourself personally?
Personally, I want to enjoy my life to the fullest because we never know how long we're going to be around. To be true to thyself, enjoy every person in my life, and continue my personal sexual journey in different aspects of my relationship with my male partner at this point in time, and then my female partners.
So let's also talk about now your education. Career-wise, where would you like to end up?
I would like to become a sexuality therapist and educator, and that works very well with the big puzzle right now, creating a space for people to be comfortable and welcomed in a non-judgmental environment where they can speak their mind and be heard as individuals.
In a number of conversations that we had just prior to getting on air, you talk a lot about the big puzzle. It's a visual reference you seem to use a lot. What does that mean for you, and how can you communicate the big puzzle to some of our listeners?
The big puzzle is directed to attitudes.cc, the website, which is for all sexual orientations and lifestyles. My study at Concordia University will bring me about to become an accredited professional who accepts people in the alternative lifestyles and all sexual orientations with no judgment, because we're all individuals, and the bottom line is respect.
How much longer do you have in your studies?
We have a long way to go. I've just started, so we have another 5 years.
Now, where were you living prior to studying at Concordia?
Prior to studying Concordia, I was in Toronto, living a different life than I do now.
And the main reason for that is?
Toronto is known to be, by many people, very conservative, very self-absorbed in the work environment, not so much exploring. And I find that my move to Montreal has helped me along my journey to fulfill my inner being, to find out what I really want to be doing, put me on my career path, and enable me to reach wonderful people in different groups here that have let me into their lives and let me see what's going on from different perspectives.
And can you tell me a little bit about some of the relationships you formed here in Montreal?
There are many different relationships that are here in Montreal that I've created, from small organizations that I've supported, from the Sex Workers Coalition, for example. We have a nice little group there. The Unholy Army of the Night, which is queer leather women and friends, which gear themselves to education and play parties. Other areas, we're talking about other community leaders coming about to share their knowledge and their expertise, creating a more wiser individual when you're actually sharing this information.
You know, I've taken a look at your resume here, and you participate with a lot of different organizations and groups. A few that we're going to get into later on in this show. You were part of the Kink television program. You also participate at Club Le Rage, which is a swingers club here in Montreal. How do you find the time for all these different events and activities?
Yes, I asked myself the same question. I was approached by Le Rage to assist in some of their alternative nights, particularly their fetish night. And then after seeing what we've done so far, they've asked me to assist in their ladies' nights, which is an honor because then I get to bring in educational tools in that area, which I'm very happy about. And that's something that makes me extremely excited.
And pleasure is what it's all about. We're talking with Victoria here in studio on Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're in studio today with Victoria, who is the proprietor of www.attitudes.cc. Welcome back, Victoria.
Thank you once again.
Now let's talk about your website. I'm just going to read here one of the first lines off your website. Attitudes.cc is Montreal's online sexuality education and information forum, promoting positive sexuality and community awareness for all sexual orientations in the city and its surrounding areas. Let's start off with what we can find here on the website. So I'll start off with what is Take a Peek?
Take a Peek is a series that we've started that takes place every third Sunday of each month. And what we do is we highlight different community leaders and members of the community, which bring about information about current workshops that they are holding and facilitating. And we give you a peek at what they have to offer. And it's an interactive time frame where you get to hear a little bit of what's going on and then participate in something. For example, we had a sensual massage and body painting Take a Peek, which is going to be repeated once again in June, where everybody was treated to a little hands-on as to what to do.
And according to this website document here, erotic cabaret fundraiser events hosted by attitudes.cc in conjunction with support groups and organizations highlighting the diverse sexual and sensual attitudes of our time. Tell me a little bit about the cabarets.
The cabarets are held twice a year. And what we do is we hook up with a community organization to support them in what they are doing and to help us out to fund our current website and the translation of the website from English to French currently, which we are seeking. At this point in time, we are holding our cabaret on May the 23rd next Sunday at Leon d'Or at Ontario Street near Papineau. And it's a fun-filled 2-hour live performances evening starting at 9:30. And the tickets are $10 in advance and $15 at the door. And I can tell you this, it's much better than a 2-hour movie.
Let's look at some of the acts here on the roster. You have, let's see, what can I read here?
What can you read?
Well, it's not that I'm illiterate, although sometimes people wonder. It's because some of these titles aren't necessarily things that I can get away with saying on air. So let's see. Okay, we have something here called Phoenix Ascending. What's that?
Phoenix Ascending is a young lady by the name of Ella, and she plays with fire. She's not a fire breather, but a fire player. She basically rolls fire flames across her body. And she's also one of the documentees on The Kink show.
Now, you know the old saying, when you play with fire, you're bound to get burned.
Well, her burning sensations happened when she was very young, and she has a very detailed story about that, which you can see on the Kink episodes. Other than that, she's been very comfortable with her scars and has actually surpassed the experience and taken a different direction.
So she's empowered herself, essentially.
Much so, she does.
All right, let's talk about Serpentine Design.
Serpentine Design is a play on different individuals who you think may be dominant or submissive, but you're not quite sure. So it's a role play performance, and that will involve a live 6-foot snake.
A live 6-foot snake?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're a snake lover, you definitely want to check out this show, right?
I would say so. It's something to behold.
And, okay, I'm going to go with this one here. Wet Dreams Theater Company.
Wet Dreams Theater Company is coming in from Ottawa, and they're putting on a performance piece called Dom in a Box, which is a tongue-in-cheek pantomime about a submissive ordering a dom in a box that he has to inflate and find out how she works.
I'm not sure if I could actually visualize that, but if anybody out there has any clue as to what this would look like, I challenge you, go see this show and see just how accurate your visualizations would be. Now let's getting back to your website here. Membership perks. What kind of membership perks are we talking about, and a member of what?
Excuse me, you'd be a member of attitudes.cc, and what we're creating is a discounted listing of supportive retailers and individual shopkeepers and craftsmen that could give 10% or more, depending on the day or the month, to individuals who become members of attitudes.cc, and at the same time supporting the website. And that's a yearly fee.
And how does one become a member? What's the procedure?
The procedure would be to just email us at email@attitudes.cc and voice your interest in becoming a member. And what we do is we give you a little attitudes.cc card and register a number to you. And you'll be able to use that to the various retailers and supportive people that we have on board.
Are you able to name some of those retailers, just to give our listeners an idea?
We have Benetel Cal, for example, and Joy Toys. We have Sculpt Messiah, for example, who is a fashion designer. We had her showcased last year at one of the cabarets. Other people are Aphrodisiac Charm Photography, for example, where you have a discounted rate for a photo shoot.
Excellent. Let's see. Let's look here. Resource links to information centers, programs, and community and support groups. Why has that been included?
That is actually an integral part of the website. Since my first arrival to Montreal, I found that it's a great city. It's diverse, wonderful groups here, but they're all segregated in different little pockets. So what I did was I created the site and brought everybody together under one umbrella. So if you're looking for anything, support groups, organizations have a question, would like to get in touch with people and find out some more information, but we're not sure where to find it, we've set up a resource link area.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Unholy Army of the Night? I know you alluded to them earlier in the program, but they are in your resource link.
They're located under the BDSM resource link area, and they're one of the community groups in the city that are geared towards the queer women and their friends. showcasing and introducing people in a welcoming environment to the BDSM community at a very, very comfortable level for women only.
Tell me now about your interactive educational workshops. You also give workshops under the banner of attitudes.cc.
Well, what we do is we facilitate interactive workshops. For example, the Take a Peek series is one of the interactive workshop series. This summer, we're bringing in Midori, who is coming from California, and she's an alternative lifestyle sexuality educator. We are facilitating her along with Venetel Cal, and she'll be doing Japanese rope bondage and essential creative bondage techniques, along with information on flogging, beyond duality, and she's also heading over to Ottawa prior to her arrival here.
Now, this website must take an incredible amount of time to maintain, update. What do you get out of that?
What do I get out of it? The satisfaction that I'm reaching a lot of people with information that I believe people want to get their hands on, easily accessible, because it's needed. It's hard to find information here if it's not in one area. I don't know if you've had the experience yourself. If you're looking for one item, you have to track down maybe 3-4 different individuals to find out what you're looking for. At the same time, here you can find it in one fell swoop, and you can find more than one.
And are all of the different links particular events and interests of yours personally, or has this evolved over time to include things that you yourself are not personally involved with?
I am including everyone, as mentioned, all sexual orientations and alternative lifestyles. I am part of some of the alternative lifestyles, but at the same time, I'm opening the door to everybody because I think everybody should be under one area and easily accessible.
We're talking with Viktoria here on Frank Talks. She was also featured on the television program Kink and does give, or I should say participates at the Club L'Orage, which is one of the bigger swinger clubs here in Montreal. And we're going to find out more about that after this next break.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're back in studio with Viktoria, who runs the website attitudes.cc. And we're going to talk a little bit now about her experiences at Club L'Orage, which is a swinger club here in Montreal, and then delve into the world of Kink. That's Kink, the television program, which Viktoria got to be spotlit on this past season. So let's start with Club L'Orage.
Okay.
Now, tell me about what specifically do you get from being involved at Club L'Orage?
I am a co-organizer and coordinator of their fetish nights and their ladies' nights. For the fetish nights, we are organizing educational demonstrations at the beginning of the evening, followed by a couple of Kink episodes on their 12-foot screen. And then we have a live performance from one of the community members. Particularly this month, it will be Ella, the fire player, along with another wonderful community member by the name of Chaos.
Now, when are these fetish nights at Club L'Orage?
The fetish nights are every third Thursday of the month. And information about that, once again, can be found on the attitudes.cc website in the events listing. You can see exactly how the entrance fee is and what to expect and the listing of the performances and what times the educational portion will be there.
Now let's talk about kink. Now, this is something I'm personally interested in. I've watched the previous seasons of kink, but since I no longer have television access anymore due to some changes in my living environment, I haven't had a chance to see the current season. So you're going to have to fill me in. What can I expect when I finally get my hands on a copy of the current version season of kink?
The current version of Kink is very much a live, interactive, a full-bodied documentary on the wonderful people of the BDSM community in Montreal. And you're going to get a very diverse perspective, from heterosexual people to transsexual to transvestite to 24/7 BDSM people, as opposed to just part of their lives, adding a little spice. And it's the broadest range I've ever seen, actually.
Now, where do you fit in on the new kink roster?
I fit in as the newbie in the BDSM scene, and I am delving into becoming a dominatrix. And I'm trying to find out what that's all about and if it plays a role in my life.
On a more personal note, I'd like to ask you, you're focusing now on being a dominatrix, what's called a top, I believe?
Yes, it's called top. As a profession, dominatrix for me is not my bag. Personally, I am what is known as a switch. Predominantly in a public scene, I'm a dominant, and privately with very well trusted individuals, I am a switch.
Switch meaning that you would switch to being submissive?
Correct.
So you do play both sides,
Yes.
dominant and submissive.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the qualities that you look for in a person that would allow you to feel comfortable enough to be a submissive?
Somebody who is open to sitting down and discussing what exactly we want to be doing, what we would like to explore or journey, what kind of sensation play or a session we want to have, making me feel completely comfortable. And I do the same in respect. And that's basically how I prefer it.
Now, getting back to the kink program, to my understanding, they were following you for days, if not weeks, collecting dozens of hours of videotape. What was that experience like?
We had a camera crew of 3 people. We had a sound man, a videographer, the paper pusher, as we call it, making sure everybody signing all the release forms, the director, and they were following all the individuals around for a 4-month period. That was the entire summer. So we would see them once a week at least for 2 to 3 days at a time. And they would be spotlighting us as individuals and finding out what we're like on a daily basis, what we're like with our intimate partners, what aspects of the BDSM or fetish community we enjoy, how we got there, what initiated or inspired it, how we felt about it, what we do now, what our goals, our aspirations are. It's pretty well-rounded.
Is there anything that they videotaped you doing that did not make it into the show that you wish had made it into the show?
Actually, to be honest, I haven't seen all the episodes, but I have them all on tape, and they were given to me by a close friend of mine. So I'm going to be able to view them. And at the same time, we've been promised the entire series by the production crew at the end of the season.
So you're not even watching the very show that you were featured in?
Actually, the only time I'm going to get to see it is at the Fetish Nights at L'Orage on the 12-foot screen, which I prefer because then I get to see everything nice and big.
Let's go into another direction here. Is there anything that they videotaped you doing that right afterwards you felt, maybe they shouldn't have seen that, or maybe I should have thought twice before that?
No, I was very comfortable with them because at the beginning when they told us that they were coming to film us, that they would be filming everything, including, you changing from one outfit to another or having a conversation with your partner or other people. So I was very well aware that they would be around, so I didn't feel at all uncomfortable.
Did you ever find yourself censoring yourself, knowing that there was a camera crew there?
I found myself not censoring, but making sure that I was trying to choose the appropriate language to convey the information.
Okay. If somebody is listening and they were approached by the kink program and they're considering being in, I believe what coming up would be season 4, what advice would you have for them?
Be prepared to have a camera crew basically sleeping with you.
Which for some people, that might be a very enjoyable experience.
Yes, if you're an exhibitionist, that would be fine.
But if you're not an exhibitionist, then this is something that might be a bit difficult.
Yes, you might find yourself in a position where you're going to be internalizing everything and wondering where exactly you're heading. So it's very much voluntary participation where you want people to know about who you are and what you stand for and where you're coming from.
On that note, knowing now that you've bared your soul on television and that there are people out there who maybe are going to get to know you through this television program, is there anybody out there who is probably going to learn something about you that they didn't know previously that might come back to haunt you?
The fact that I'm in the BDSM community is the foremost. A lot of people don't know that. There were assumptions on, I'm such a rebel and I'm an independent individual, but nobody really knew the personal aspects of my life. So that's an open book on the documentary.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We're talking with Viktoria.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank because I have to be. Where it's about that time, we're starting to wind down. Viktoria, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown, any sort of contact information if people want to try to reach you or your website?
The contact information that I would like to relate is the www.attitudes.cc website. You can email us under the Contact Us section. You can find out what's going on in the events area, particularly our cabaret, with a huge lineup, over 2 hours of live performances. As I said before, better than a 2-hour movie. And tomorrow we're third Sunday of the month, which is our Take a Peek series. And since it's Masturbation Month, it's Joy of Self-Pleasure for you and your partner, hosted by Venatel Cal. And they'll show us what they have to offer and share.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again.
What is it about me, about these names? Like, I buy my tech and right-hand man behind the board is named Zoltan. Zoltan. Like, how many people in your life do you know that actually are named Zoltan? It's and he even knows it. But he is my right-hand man and my left-hand man. He was very instrumental tonight. Sorry about that, Zoltan. I should have definitely given you a heads up. I'm a very, very bad boy. I just torture you. But then again, given the topic of the show, BDSM, maybe that just fits, Zoltan, take your shirt off. I'm in the mood for a flogging. All right.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Does it cost a lot of money? It's the best rate going around. Could it cost a lot of money? Oh, it's worth every cent that you will put down. Yeah, franktalks.com. Oh, you got to go to get your help from franktalks.com. Yeah, yeah. franktalks.com. Would you believe that Frank gets results? Yes, we're certain. Just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's got the goods. Good love can soon